because it's in and out kind of thing. Like
Yes, of course. Where are you right now, Madhupati Prabhu?
New Jersey, New
New
Jersey.
Jersey. Okay.
Yeah, I was to go, but my
Yeah.
mother got just a couple of weeks back discharged from the hospital, so I'm taking care of her.
Do you feel better?
Yeah, feeling better, but no, its mobility is a little bit hampered. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Hare Krishna. So, Mother Tulsi Priya, would you like to lead?
Oh, you please lead, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Guru Dasa Jayadvaita Swami Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajagacharya Astotra Satar Shishimad. His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privrajagacharya Astotra Satar Shishimad. His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Brind Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Brindi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamaye Ki Jai. Yamuna Maye Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Brindi Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Panchatattva Prabhu. And welcome to everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. I don't see Maharaj on the list of participants this evening, so it may be friends tonight. So those of you who are able-voiced readers and commentators, we may be reaching out and inviting you to read and comment this evening. It is Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. And where we left off, someone can remind me, we're in third canto, chapter 26, and the verse number escapes me. Starting with text 9.
9,
Tulsi
correct.
Priya says. So very
Yes.
good. So starting with text 9. And Tulsi Priya, are you able to read text 9 or maybe text 10?
I don't have it up just yet, but in a moment.
Okay.
But I can read either one if you're willing to wait.
I'm certainly willing to wait. Thank you.
Let me get there.
So let us say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're at chapter 26, right?
Yes, that's it.
And text 9. I'm sorry. I had to go through a lot of other pages first. Okay. Text 9. Devahuti prakrite purushasyapi lakshanam purushottama bruhi karanayor asya sarasachcha yadatmakam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Srila Prabhupada. Devahuti said, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and His energies, for both of these are the causes of this manifest and unmanifest creation. Purport. Prakriti, or material nature, is connected with both the Supreme Lord and the living entities, just as a woman is connected with her husband as a wife and with her children as a mother. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He impregnates Mother Nature with children, living entities, and thereafter all species of living entities become manifest. The relationship of all living entities with material nature has been explained. Now, an understanding of the relationship between material nature and the Supreme Lord is sought by Devahuti. The product of that relationship is stated to be the manifest and unmanifest material world. The unmanifest material world is a subtle Mahat Tattva, and from that Mahat Tattva, the material manifestation has emerged. In the Vedic literatures, it is said that by the grace of the Supreme Lord, the total material energy is impregnated, and then everything is born of material nature. It is also confirmed in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that under His glance, Adhyakshena, under His direction and by His will, nature is working. It is not that nature works blindly. After understanding the position of the conditioned souls in relation to material nature, Devahuti wanted to know how nature works under the direction of the Lord and what the relationship is between the material nature and the Lord. In other words, she wanted to learn the characteristics of the Supreme Lord in relation to the material nature. The relationship of the living entities with matter and that of the Supreme Lord with matter are certainly not on the same level, although the Mayavadis may interpret it in that way. When it is said that the living entities are bewildered, the Mayavadi philosophers ascribe this bewilderment to the Supreme Lord, but that is not applicable. The Lord is never bewildered. That is the difference between personalists and impersonalists. Devahuti is not unintelligent. She has enough intelligence to understand that the living entities are not on the level of the Supreme Lord. Because the living entities are infinitesimal, they become bewildered and conditioned by material nature. But this does not mean that the Supreme Lord is also conditioned or bewildered. The difference between the conditioned soul and the Lord is that the Lord is the Lord, the master of material nature, and he is therefore not subject to its control. He is controlled neither by spiritual nature nor by material nature. He is the supreme controller himself, and he cannot be compared to ordinary living entities who are controlled by the laws of material nature. Two words used in this verse are sat and asat. The cosmic manifestation is asat, it does not exist, but the material energy of the Supreme Lord is sat, or ever existing. Material nature is ever existing in its subtle form as the energy of the Lord, but it sometimes manifests this non-existent or temporarily existent nature, the cosmos. An analogy may be made with the father and mother. The mother and the father exist, but sometimes the mother begets children. Similarly, this cosmic manifestation, which comes from the unmanifest material nature of the Supreme Lord, sometimes appears and again disappears, but the material nature is ever existing, and the Supreme Lord is the supreme cause for both subtle and gross manifestations of this material world. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, the first sentence right away caught my attention because Prabhupada immediately stresses the idea of relationship, and that is the foundation of everything in our Krishna consciousness and in our philosophy. Is not only is the absolute truth a person, and not only are the living entities persons eternally, but there's a relationship, and that's the foundation of the absolute truth. It's not only the Lord, but it's the Lord and his energies in relationship with each other. And then he goes on to further elaborate on that relationship. And then the other part of it that strikes me is that the relationship it's not a relationship of equals. Even Mayavadis accepting, theoretically that we might all exist temporarily or an illusion. The nature of our existence, the Supreme Lord compared to the living entities, is completely different. The Lord is always the controller. He's always the supreme, and we are always subordinate. So it's not that every individual living entity is equal to every other single living entity. The jivas are all of equal quality, but we're not equal in power or that's what I'm trying to think of. We're not dominant. We're the predominated, and Krishna is the predominator. So, and the material energy, we may try to control it, but ultimately we're controlled by material energy because it's Krishna's energy and he's the one in control of that. So we're never the controller. We may play at being the controller. We may be an illusion about being controllers, but ultimately we're not the controller. So I finally, the last paragraph where he says the cosmic manifestation is asat. It does not exist. That is something I was thinking about the other day, because it's always, no matter how many times I get told, it's still a matter of bewilderment to me how the material energy is both existing and not existing. And of course the answer is that it's temporary. It's not false, but ultimately it has no real substance. It's temporary. It manifests in, for the wayward living entities to have a little playground to play in and pretend that they're cops and robbers and kings and queens and so on. But it's not the real substance of reality. And so, we can't take it as truth. But it is not non-existent. Its material nature is part of Krishna's energy, but it's, at least according to my understanding, is that the material energy is not really different from the spiritual energy. It's just when we seek to be the controllers, that material energy is a manifestation to give us the opportunity to play at being controllers and to be an illusion. But ultimately everything is Krishna's energy, and therefore everything is spiritual. That's all I have to say. I hope if there's any corrections, please jump in.
I don't have any corrections, certainly, but I was thinking about how Prabhupada starts it off talking about the manifest and unmanifest material nature, which he says the latter is the category of the Mahat Tattva. It's there, but it's not manifest, which is hard. But then later he gives the analogy of the mother and father, that they're there, but sometimes the mother has children. And so we're all of us jivas, we're materially, we're products of Mother Nature, but we don't see even the material cause. We're covered, and we're just stuck in this nature. We don't like, if you're in the womb, you don't think I'm in the womb. You're just stuck somewhere. And then when you come out, even then, you don't think I just came out. Or you're so covered by ignorance that you don't know what's going on. And that's the case for most of us most of the time. And when Prabhupada goes and talks about the essence between the impersonalists and the personalists, that's when it connected for me, that the personalists know, okay, I'm coming from a person, and that person is greater than me. But the overwhelming tendency is in conditional life is to be an impersonalist, because we're all so high on false ego that we naturally think that we're the best, even if we're all of us paupers are proud of our pennies. So to think that there's someone supreme above everyone is just, it's the most unpalatable thing for most people. So they posit this impersonal philosophy that, there's all of us, and I'm pretty much the best of all of us, and above us, nothing, or something of that nature.
It just seems so illogical to me, though, because impersonalists, do impersonalists really believe that they're impersonal? Because you can't live and not, you can't live as a non-person. It's not possible. I remember one time a friend of mine whose husband was a Buddhist, she said that she was traveling with some other Buddhists somewhere, and they were telling her how they were doing some meditation and they disappeared. They felt their ego dissolve. And I said, how would they know? If their ego dissolved, then there's nothing for them to remember. It's like getting abducted by aliens. They lose their memories. And how can you know if your ego is dissolved? If you have no ego, then there's nothing for you to remember about it. So she's like, oh wow. She says, I wish I told them that, because it's such an affectation,
it's certainly not a very comprehensive philosophy. I remember hearing Hridayananda Maharaj once say, yes, the impersonalists may say that everything is impersonal, but just watch what happens when you treat them impersonally. It's just natural. It's an untenable philosophy. Any other comments or questions on this? It's quite a long purport. There's a lot in there.
I was thinking about that reference to Adhyakshena. That's from 9th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Maya Adhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam etanani nikamtya jagadviparavartate. The energy, it's working under Krishna's direction. Maya Adhyakshena, by my direction. And living entities are becoming manifest, unmanifest. All of this stuff is going on under Krishna's direction. It's not working blindly. The whole direction of Western knowledge, modern knowledge, material knowledge is that things are just kind of working. They're just going on in some sort of mechanical direction without a machine operator, or a random way with amazingly and surprisingly organized results. But ultimately, there's this underlying theme of chaos. And that's not what we hear in the pages of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Everything has a great deal of organization. And then earlier we were hearing that the cause of the conditioned soul's material body and senses presiding deities, demigods, is the material nature. And now we're hearing about the source of the material nature, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the source of the living entities, which is ultimately Him, Aham Bija Pradapita, in Bhagavad Gita. Tasam Brahma Mahadyunir Aham Bija Pradapita. Krishna says, I'm the seed-giving father of all living entities. And Prabhupada in that purport says it's a seed. Krishna has a seed-giving process. There's a process behind it. That's the scientists kind of touch on it. The medical establishment kind of touch it. They see that there's this process going on, but ultimately they don't understand the background processes and where that's all coming from. It's some surface knowledge, something shallow. And when you have a tiny speck of knowledge, it's almost as bad as having none at all, because you come to just really wrong results, really wrong conclusions. That's another thing about the ego of the living entity I was thinking about, of the human being in particular. He thinks with his paltry knowledge, he's come to the right conclusion. So, difficult position.
Yeah, and typically hearing from Sadaputa Prabhu saying how typically we're able to experience phenomena that are medium size and at a certain distance. If something's just too big or too far away or too small, we can't see it. We can't even conceive of its existing. And so when we're speaking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it just doesn't compute for most people. And materially, it doesn't compute at all. It's something you can only hear about and accept, or good luck. Tulsi Priya has a hand up.
I do have a hand up and I have something to say, but I'm going to read Saraswati Mataji's comment in the chat box. Pranams. Any one of Krishna's senses can carry out the function of any other senses, like he can impregnate simply by glancing over material nature, which makes it clear he is the Supreme Person and not impersonal. It's a nice point. I was just wondering, when we talk about the manifestation of the material world, there's, as far as I know, there's never any time when material manifestation or material world manifests without living entities, right? There's no planet or universe anywhere that is not populated with living entities. So to me, that seems to be the key component of why it manifests. It's for the living entities. It's otherwise, what's the point of just having a planet with matter and no living entities?
The only exception, and of course what you're saying is on, but the only exception I can think of to that is that there's a part of the universe called Aloka Varsha, which is beyond the Loka mountain, which is this range of mountains that's out at the border of inhabited space. And then Aloka can be translated as there ain't nobody there somehow.
But it's still part of a universe in which living entities live.
Yeah. All right. So perhaps we can move on. Let's see. Madhupati Prabhu, would you like to read text number 10 in the purport? Alternately, Panchatattva Prabhu, if you're able.
Before we move on, there's a comment from Priyanka Mataji in the text, in the chat. She says, Srila Prabhupada explains Piladev is addressed here as Purushottama. Sometimes living entities are also called Purusha in their enjoying temperament, but they are illusory Purusha. Real Purusha is only Bhagavan.
Oh. Text 10. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Yattatri Gunam Avyaktam Nityam Sada Sad Atmakam Pradhanam Prakritim Prahur Avisesham Viseshavat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the unmanifested eternal combination of the three modes is the cause of the manifest state and is called pradhan. It is called prakriti when in the manifested stage of existence. This is a very technical purport, even though it's relatively short. So let's see how we do. Purport. The Lord points out material nature in its subtle stage, which is called pradhan, and he analyzes this pradhan. The explanation of pradhan and prakriti is that pradhan is the subtle, undifferentiated sum total of all material elements. Although they are undifferentiated, one can understand that the total material elements are contained therein. When the total material elements are manifested by the interaction of the three modes of material nature, the manifestation is called prakriti. Impersonalists say that Brahman is without variegatedness and without differentiation. One may say that pradhan is the Brahman stage, but actually, the Brahman stage is not pradhan. Pradhan is distinct from Brahman, because in Brahman, there is no existence of the material modes of nature. One may argue that the Mahatattva is also different from pradhan, because in the Mahatattva, there are manifestations. The actual explanation of pradhan, however, is given here. when the cause and effect are not clearly manifested, avyakta, the reaction of the total elements does not take place. And that stage of material nature is called pradhan. Pradhan is not the time element, because in the time element, there are actions and reactions, creation and annihilation. Nor is it the jiva, or marginal potency of living entities, or designated conditioned living entities, because the designations of the living entities are not eternal. One adjective used in this connection is nitya, which indicates eternality. Therefore, the condition of material nature immediately previous to its manifestation is called pradhan. I think I could read that 10, 15, 20 times and still that's quite a purport. What pradhan is, what it's not, what stage of material energy it is. It's prior to the manifest stage where prakriti is manifested, being acted upon by time and so forth. But pradhan is the thing about it that strikes me is that here we are getting an understanding that actually material energy, being one of the Lord's energies, is eternal, but it exists sometimes in a manifest state, sometimes in an unmanifest state. I'm a little confused about the differentiation between the Mahatattva and Pradhan, but that's another thing. But that's my takeaway. Pradhan, and that Prabhupada's taking pains. He's taking pains to make sure we understand that Pradhan is not synonymous with Brahman. Pradhan is not synonymous with the time element or the jiva. He's actually breaking apart the impersonalist idea that everything's just one. He's taking pains to show how these things are differentiated, these different subjects. Anything else?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has a sizable purport on this verse, and it's also quite technical. I emailed it to Tulsi Priya in case she might be able to read it, or I could try to work through it. Meanwhile, Saraswati Mata asks if it's possible to put up that chart that we had that showed the rough breakdown steps of material creation, which we had available reading the second canto. I'll start reading it.
I will share that email on screen if somebody else wants to read it, or you can try to read it while I look for the chart.
Yeah, I'll try to read it. I need to practice here. Yeah, so Srila Vishwanath has there's a slightly different flavor to the translation of the verse. The Lord said, Prakriti is called avyakta because, though having variety, it has a state of invisibility when the three gunas are in balance. It is called pradhan because, manifesting variety, it is the best, being the shelter of all the visible elements. It is called prakriti because it is the very cause of all causes and effects. It is eternal. Another synonym for pradhan is the chief. Srila Vishwanath says, this verse gives the characteristics of prakriti. The aggregate of the three gunas is called avyaktam, pradhanam, and prakriti. It is called avyakta, the invisible, because it has an invisible state, though it still possesses particularity due to the balance of the three gunas. It is called pradhan, the chief, because manifesting variety, It is the best among all partial forms, which are its effects, being the shelter of particular elements like Mahat Tattva. This is way beyond my pay grade. It is called Prakriti, original form, because it is the cause of all other causes. I'm sorry, cause of the other causes and effects, Sat Asat, such as Mahat Tattva, being the very Svarup, Atma, of what follows. It is eternal since it remains as the final cause, even after universal destruction. So that's the Pradhan. Or, he says, there is another meaning. What is indescribable, called Pradhan, because it is superior, is also called Prakriti. Its indescribable nature is given. Though consisting of 3 gunas, it is invisible. It becomes visible with gunas. Though it is composed of cause, asat, and effect, sat, it is eternal. Though it is seen as temporary. Oh, my screen's been taken over. I can't continue reading. No, you can do the screen share. I'll just opt out of it.
No, I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that was going to happen.
Okay. So it becomes visible with gunas. Though it is composed of cause and effect, it is eternal. Though it is seen as temporary, things such as earth, and has varieties such as Mahat Tattva, it is also without variety when in the condition of balanced gunas. What possesses variety as substance becomes invisible without variety in another form. This is what we're up against, everyone. I can't possibly speak on that at all.
I need a week on this, at least a month.
I think now Prabhupada's purport sounds really more to the point here, or at least more digestible. I'm sure everything there is just completely sanguine too, but
So I'll pull up the chart again.
And Murari Gupta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhus, is Pradhan the subtlest form of matter, or is it spiritual energy? Well, it's nowhere if we heard so far that it is spiritual energy. It's certainly more subtle than what we experience. If it's material, how is it a part of Krishna who is purely spiritual? Well, Krishna has Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate. He's got all kinds of energies. He's got energies that are purely spiritual that materially conditioned people can't even experience at all. And he's got even very subtle material energies that materially conditioned people can neither experience at all. They can just talk about it and scratch their heads interminably. That's all I can say about it. Yes, Saraswati Mata is also scratching her head. Maharaj says, Maharaj says earth is invisible until manifest in some particular form, matter. Yeah, the elements themselves are out there in an unmanifested form, but they're there. Like Maharaj has said before, it's like a warehouse. You know, all the ingredients are there, all they're there, but until there's an order for it, it's just kind of hanging out on a shelf or something. It's hard to conceptualize these things. Maybe somebody else would like to address Murari Gupta Prabhu's questions in a more comprehensive way.
I just wanted to say that Krishna claims the material energy as his binna prakriti, his separated material energy. That verse, Bhumirapo, Nalo Vayu Kamano Buddhireva Chahankara Ityame binna prakritir ashtadha. In other words, it's his energy, but it's in this particular state. It's an inferior energy. And then he explains that the jivas are superior. Part of his superior energy, but marginal. Bina prakriti.
And Murai Gupta Prabhu says that we say that for the pure devotees, the material world is spiritual. Yes, because they are pure devotees, and pure devotees means that everywhere they see either Krishna himself or all energies as being directly connected with Krishna. So they don't, like Prabhupada said, everything is spiritual. We're not Mayavadis. There are different kinds of spirit. Saraswati Mata says, as Krishna's senses can perform the functions, as Krishna's senses can perform the function of any other sense, so any of his infinite energies can carry out the function of another one of his energies. That's logical, but I can't substantiate that shastrically or otherwise, but it certainly does make sense. Oh, Maharaj says for Saraswati, I don't think I, as one of Krishna's energies, could do anything any of his other energies could do. And then Murai Gupta Prabhu says, if everything is spiritual, what is matter? It's when you turn from Krishna, everything looks material. You turn towards Krishna, everything looks spiritual. Krishna Bahir Mukha, Bhoga Vanchakari. If you want to try to enjoy it, it's material. You can enjoy it. If you see it as Krishna's energy for him to enjoy, then Krishna can enjoy. It becomes spiritual. The matter becomes re-spiritualized. Yes, and Saraswati Mata says, I was thinking of how electricity can heat and cool depending on the need. Right. It's electricity. Electricity is the energy making things go, but depending on the receptacle is how it acts and what its effects are. Murai Gupta Prabhu says, then how is pradhan material?
Because of our consciousness. Oh, he's saying the undifferentiated.
Yes, Maharaj says to Murari Gupta, Krishna employs it materially. He says also, how is the college budget the college budget?
So we have the visual representation here of the chart, the Sankhya, showing the Prakriti and the Mahatattva and Ahankar. I don't see Pradhan shown on this. Is it there and I'm missing it? Or is Pradhan a thing or is it a concept?
Maharaj says, no, not a concept. And he also says above, it's according to how Krishna wants to deploy it. Murai Prabhu says, is Krishna employing spiritual energy materially? Yes, that's my understanding. And Maharaj says, yes, Murari, yes, yes, Maharaj says, yes. It's unactivated material energy. Panchatattva Prabhu says the material energy has its own qualities distinct from his other energies. And Maharaj confirms that unactivated material energy is called pradhan. And regarding the difference between pradhan and prakriti, Srila Prabhupada explains, and he's typing, before time enters, material energy is inactive. Only once time agitates the gunas does material energy become active.
That's shown in the chart, Prakriti plus Kala plus Swabhava plus Karma.
Yeah. Maharaj goes on. Unactivated, it's pradhan. Activated, prakriti.
I think part of the reason it's so hard to understand is that we're in it. It's like the saying, what do fish know about water? They're in it. It's just part of the environment. It's just we're made of it. So it seems like it's very hard to get outside of it and see it, very distinctly. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, but even though I said we, but I think it's hard to see it when you're deeply in it, and you're made of it, and you identify with that material identity.
Yeah, we're covered by these very things. And Marai Prabhu says, Jai, thank you for clarifying these complicated points. Like I was saying earlier about the child in the womb, he doesn't know what the womb is or who he is or where he is, what the mother is. He has no concept. If he gets fed, he's happy. Tulsi Priya, your hand is just now down. Okay.
Yes.
All right. We figured everything out.
So Swati Mataji says in the chat box, so are conditional jivas actions and reactions recorded not only for lifetimes, but during one material creation to the next? Well, if you're not done in the material world, you get reabsorbed into the body of Mahavishnu, correct?
True. I think it would make sense that your rap sheet follows you wherever you go.
Yeah, the karma is only dissolved when you surrender to Krishna.
Maharaj says to Saraswati, this is explained by the prayers by the personified Vedas. So I'm sure you can find it in there. Example given. Oh, he's continuing here. Meanwhile, Panchatattva Prabhu says, you pick up where you left off. Yes.
You don't get a clean slate.
No. Maharaj is typing here. Honey is a merge, but within it are the tastes of different flowers.
I think it takes some experience of having tasted different kinds of honey to understand that a little bit. Because most people, they just think honey is honey, but honey does have different flavors of different flowers.
Maharaj continues, so all living entities are merged within the body of Mahavishnu, but at creation, they come out again with their individual karma and tendencies. Yeah. All right, shall we? Oh, yeah. Is there any more on this verse, or are we able to continue? Is there enough time to get into the next verse? It's another long purport. I haven't looked at it yet.
Text 11.
Yeah.
It's not long.
Let's go for it.
Let's see. Who can read? Is Dana, are you able to read?
Or Priyanka. Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to jump in.
Sure, I can try. Panchabir Brahma Chaturbir Dashavishtata Etachaturvimshatikam Ganam Pradhanikam Vidhu. Translation. The aggregate elements, namely the 5 gross elements, the 5 subtle elements, the 4 internal senses, the 5 senses for gathering knowledge, and the 5 outward organs of action, are known as the pradhan. Purport. According to Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of the 24 elements described herein is called the Yonir Madhad Brahma. The sum total of the living entities is impregnated into this Yonir Mahad Brahma, and they are born in different forms, beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. In the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures, the sum total of the 24 elements, Pradhana, is also described as Yonir Mahad Brahma. It is the source of the birth and subsistence of all living entities. I'm not sure I have a comment on it. I'd love to hear others.
Srila Vishwanath doesn't really have a lot more to say on this particular verse. But it gives another shade of meaning on Pradhan. It's all these things taken together. And Tulsi Priya, we determined that Pradhan doesn't show up, at least apparently, on that chart from Maya in the Bhagavat Purana, correct?
I'm sorry, say again?
Did we determine that we don't see Pradhan explicitly pointed out anywhere in that flowchart from the Maya in the Bhagavat Purana?
I did not see it. I will bring it up again.
Maharaj says, Lord Kapila is going to be analyzing all the constituents of material nature. So yeah, it doesn't seem to show up on this chart. And Tulsi Priya says, I like the phrase, the birth and subsistence of all living entities, just like a real mother. And Maharaj says, so we start here with the total material energy. And I just find it interesting. Just we're reading this section because Devahuti Ma is asking questions, and this is her interest. This is what she wants to know about. She wants to understand her position in this world. That's our business. So that we can get out, we have to know what we're in. And Maharaj says, so we start here with the total material energy, and then the first major categories. It's helpful because if you understand all these things, at least theoretically to some degree, you can see that there's a very clearly defined difference, not only between you and your body, but you and the rest of material energy, and the rest of material energy from spiritual energy and from Krishna. It's this gigantic machine. It's a gigantic machinery in which we are all stuck. Two hands up. Panchatattva Prabhu, Tulsi Priya.
I had a quick question, and Panchatattva Prabhu can go first.
I was just thinking about Devahuti's question, because it also indicates, the purpose of the Bhagavatam. Kindly explain the characteristics of the Supreme Person and his energies for both of them. For both of these are the causes of this manifest and unmanifested creation. But by reading all of this, it may seem highly technical. Not just seem, it certainly is. But it's, definitely important information for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and our relationship with him, even in our conditioned material state. How, we're going to finally learn how to get out of it. But this is appropriate.
Yes, and as Maharaj says, all these things are being presented, and unlike the atheistic Sankyayites, we start with Krishna. And two things here. Getting close to the end of our time, but Saraswati Mata says, so are we to understand that any and every possible wayward desires any conditional jiva has or may have is anticipated, and all ingredients already present and provided for to make the illusion seem real? Hope question makes sense. My off-the-cuff answer to that is that Krishna can anticipate all eventualities. And Murari Prabhu says, I apologize for laboring the point, but just to summarize, is the understanding that Krishna has a spiritual energy that is eternally designated as material. And Maharaj says to Murari Prabhu, sometimes in the spiritual sky, a cloud appears. Yes.
So I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about Pradhan and everything, and I was looking at that chart, and it says, Prakriti plus Kala, and I forget what else. I was thinking, it reminded me of a past time Prabhupada talking about cement or concrete. So you have a pile of cement and stones, and with that, or gravel, and you make concrete with that. But concrete isn't activated until you put water in it. And then you have to work quick before it hardens. So I'm thinking, is Pradhan like the cement or the concrete, and then Kala is the water, and then demigods and whoever else are get busy and do the work. It's just a metaphor that popped into my head. I don't know if it works or not, but Pradhan is a thing, and it requires activation, and cement is also a thing and requires activation.
Yeah.
But it's, you could say that it's a resource, it's an energy of Krishna's. Prabhupada gives the example, Maharaj says, Prabhupada gives the example of a pot of water. put it on the stove above a fire, and nothing happens. Until you add time. Yes.
Aye.
With time, it boils.
Aye.
And the time has come.
Yes. And with that, it's time for kirtan. And
Maharaj says, no material nature without time, no
Right.
action.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Um,
Madhupati Prabhu is going to lead kirtan at the end.
that's what we're hoping for.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Guru Premanande, Hari 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 Bo. Jai Vishnu Paramahansa Parvajgacharya Stotra Sada His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Paramahansa Parvajgacharya Stotra Sada His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. आनंद कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जनाबी चार हरदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धनाथ जी की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर नदी धाम की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय, गंगा में यमुना में की जय, श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय। वेद बिंद बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय, हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। निताई गौर प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। All glories to Assembly of Hare Krishna, glories to Assembly of Hare Krishna, glories to Assembly of Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Jai. Thank you so much, Madhupati Prabhu. And thank you everyone for being here, and especially Maharaj, thank you for joining and mercifully adding to the kata here. I was wondering, in this country, there's a holiday tomorrow, Thanksgiving, and I think some devotees will be celebrating that in their transcendental way, and some participants may or may not be available. Is that the case for many of our participants here? Yes, at least for one. Not a holiday in Canada, we hear. Hare Krishna. Anyway, Lord willing, we'll see everyone tomorrow for Caitanya-caritamrta reading, and hopefully Maharaj, if you can join us, that'd be great. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari
Hari Hari Bol.